Imagine discovering a forgotten diary in your grandmother's attic, only to realize it belonged to a girl who vanished without a trace decades ago. Lucas couldn't resist the pull of the mystery when he found Emily's diary, a girl whose disappearance in 1993 still haunts the town. As he dives deeper into her world, strange occurrences begin to unfold, drawing him into a chilling journey that blurs the lines between the past and the present. What if you were connected to a mystery you didn't even know existed? Lucas is about to uncover secrets that will change his life forever, and you're invited to join him on this haunting adventure. Are you ready to explore the unknown and face the truth buried in the shadows of time?
Behind the doors.
Lucas had always been a curious boy. Since childhood, he spent hours exploring every corner of his grandmother's house, a place full of memories and mysteries that seemed to whisper among the old furniture and dusty photographs. That cloudy afternoon, while the wind blew strongly outside, he decided to go up to the attic, a space that was rarely visited and that held secrets from the past. With a bit of hesitation, he climbed the creaky stairs, his heart racing with anticipation of what he might find. When he opened the attic door, a cloud of dust rose, dancing in the light filtering through the small windows. The room was filled with cardboard boxes, furniture covered with white sheets, and objects that seemed to have been forgotten by time. Lucas began to rummage through the boxes, feeling the rough texture of the old paper and the smell of mold. Then something caught his attention. A dusty diary, almost hidden under a pile of old books. He crouched down, carefully pulling the leather-bound notebook, as if he feared that the mere act of touching it might break some invisible magic. Who could have written this? Lucas murmured to himself as he settled into a corner illuminated by sunlight. When he opened the diary, a faint creak echoed, as if the book itself was stretching after years of sleep. The delicate, feminine handwriting that filled the pages was almost as if every curve of every letter was imbued with emotion. Teenager who had disappeared in 1993, a case that had haunted the town for decades. "My dreams are like birds trapped in a cage," the first entry began, "and fear is the key someone holds." Lucas frowned as he read the words. He felt as if he was being pulled into Emily's mind, her sadness and hopes vibrating through the pages. He continued to read, absorbing every sentence, every intimate confession that revealed the unknown world of that young girl. As the pages went on, he came across a passage that made him stop. "In the forest, something watches me. Sometimes I feel a heavy gaze on my back, as if the trees had eyes." Lucas's heart raced. This was more than just an unsettling phrase. It was an invitation to a mystery he had never imagined. What had happened to Emily? Why did she feel watched? The attic now seemed more than just a simple storage space for old objects. It was the portal to a buried secret. "I need to find out more," he thought, closing the diary with determination. This place in the forest, there must be something there. As he looked around, the attic's atmosphere seemed to change. The shadows of the boxes and furniture seemed to lengthen, as if they wanted to tell their own stories. Lucas stood up, holding the diary against his chest, his adventurous spirit pulsing. "Grandma needs to know about this," he said out loud, as if the house itself was listening. But as he descended the stairs, Lucas felt a chill down his spine. An echo of whispering voices seemed to float in the air, as if Emily's memories were coming to life. He hesitated for a moment, but curiosity was stronger. With the diary in hand, he knew his life was about to change. Something awaited him in the forest, and he was determined to find out what it was. Lucas sat at the small wooden table in the attic, with Emily's diary open before him. The handwritten words seemed to come to life under the dim light of the hanging lamp. With every page, he felt closer to a young girl he had never known, but whose fears and dreams now pulsed in his mind. The mention of the forest intrigued him, but what unsettled him the most was the aura of mystery surrounding Emily's disappearance. What had happened that fateful night? He knew he needed to find out more. With the determination of a young investigator, Lucas descended the attic stairs and headed to the living room, where his grandmother was sitting in an armchair knitting a scarf. The crackling of the fireplace echoed in the silence of the house, breaking the tension that hung in the air. He hesitated for a moment, but Curiosity drove him to ask. "Grandma," he began, his voice trembling, "do you remember Emily? I found her diary in the attic." The grandmother looked up, a glimmer of recognition but also a shadow of concern crossing her face. "Ah, Emily, yes, I remember her," she said with a deep sigh. "You recalled my boy." "Why not? She disappeared and I need to understand what happened," insisted Lucas, feeling the need to clarify the situation. "Sometimes it's better to leave the past in the past. There are things that are not meant to be unearthed," she replied, her gaze lost in the flames of the fireplace. Lucas was undeterred. "But I read that she was with friends in the forest that night. What happened at the party? Can you tell me?" The grandmother closed her eyes for a moment as if trying to organize her memories. It was a summer night. Everyone was having fun. But something happened. Something that should never have happened. Her voice faltered, and she looked down as if reliving an old pain. "You know I won't stop until I find out the truth. I need to understand," Lucas said, the determination clear in his voice. "Lucas, please. Some truths can be more painful than you can imagine," she pleaded. But he sensed that her reluctance was a sign that perhaps there was more to be revealed. He decided that if his grandmother wouldn't talk, he would seek other sources of information. So the following morning, Lucas walked through the town, observing people who might have some connection to Emily's past. He remembered hearing the town elders murmur about her disappearance. He stopped in front of the small local library, an old building that seemed to hold many secrets. Upon entering, the smell of dusty books enveloped him as if the past was waiting to be discovered. He approached the librarian, an elderly woman with gray hair who seemed to know more than she let on. "Excuse me, ma'am. Can you help me find information about Emily, the girl who disappeared in the 90s? Lucas asked, his voice full of hope. The librarian looked at him with a serious expression. "Ah, Emily. A sad story. Many still remember her. It happened after a party in the forest, yes. People have their theories, but it's good to be careful with what you hear." "Theories?" Lucas inquired, intrigued. "What do people say?" "Some talk about a spirit that protects the forest. Others believe she simply ran away to start a new life. But the truth is that no one knows for sure," the librarian replied, with a tone of mystery that only fueled Lucas's curiosity. "Can I see articles or reports about her disappearance?" he asked, feeling that each piece of information brought him closer to the truth. "Of course. Follow me," she said, leading him to a section where old documents were stored. As he leafed through the papers, Lucas felt a strange sensation, as if he were being watched. He quickly turned around, but there was no one nearby. That night, when he returned home, Lucas sat again with Emily's diary. The words danced in his mind, and he couldn't escape the feeling that something bigger was at play. When darkness settled and the house plunged into silence, a soft whisper cut through the air, coming from the window. "Lucas." The sound was almost inaudible, but he could have sworn it was Emily's voice, calling him. His heart raced as he stood up, moving toward the window. The moonlight illuminated the garden, but no one was there. With his body trembling, he wondered if he was truly alone in this quest, or if Emily was somehow trying to communicate with him. "We need to find out what happened," he whispered to himself, determined. He didn't know that this was just the beginning of a journey that would lead him to confront not only Emily's past, but also the dark secrets that enveloped his own family. Lucas was anxious. The sunny morning seemed to promise new discoveries as he stood at the entrance of the forest, accompanied by his friend Jake. Emily's diary, now stored in his backpack, pulsed in his mind like a riddle to be solved. He couldn't ignore what the young girl had written about the mysterious place that watched her. The feeling that something was about to happen enveloped him, and adrenaline coursed through his veins. "Are you sure this is a good idea?" Jake asked, his nervous gaze directed at the dense vegetation ahead. "We don't know what awaits us in there." "We need to find out the truth about what happened to Emily," Lucas replied, with a determination that surprised even himself. "The clues are here. We can't put this off." Jake hesitated, but curiosity was stronger. He nodded, and together they crossed the threshold that separated the familiar world from the enigmatic forest. Soon they were lost among the tall trees and dancing shadows. The smell of damp earth and dry leaves surrounded them, creating an almost magical atmosphere. Each step they took seemed to resonate with echoes of secrets from the past. "Look at this," Lucas exclaimed, pointing to an old structure covered in moss. It was a marker carved in stone, with symbols that seemed ancient and worn by time. "This must be the place Emily mentioned in the diary," Jake approached, admiring the uniqueness of the object. "It's strange, isn't it? It feels like we're stepping into another time, like this place is out of the real world." "The diary talks about a spirit that protects the forest," Lucas continued, his eyes shining with the excitement of discovery. "It says it appears to those who don't respect the secrets of the place." "That makes me a little nervous, man. What if we're invoking something we shouldn't?" Jake replied, the concern evident in his voice. Lucas frowned, tempted to dismiss his friend's fear. "We can't let fear stop us. We need to move forward. Let's see what else we can find." As they progressed, the forest seemed to close around them as if it were alive and aware of their presence. The wind whispered among the leaves, and a shiver ran down Lucas's spine, trying to ignore the growing feeling that they were not alone. A whisper, something like someone calling out. Jake looked around, his eyes wide. "It must just be the wind," Lucas said, but his own voice sounded uncertain. He turned, surveying the thickness of the forest that surrounded them. "Let's keep going. We have to get to the bottom of this." The two moved forward, and soon they found a narrow path covered in dry leaves. As they walked, the environment around them became denser, and the sunlight seemed to fade, giving way to an unsettling gloom. Lucas felt a coldness in his stomach, but curiosity drove him on. "Lucas, do you remember that story we heard as kids?" Jake asked, trying to break the tension. "The one about this forest being haunted?" "Of course I remember. But those are just stories to scare kids," Lucas replied, though his voice was laden with doubt. "What if they're not? What if there's some truth to them?" Jake insisted, the worry evident in his tone. Lucas hesitated. The idea of a vengeful spirit disturbed him, but he couldn't let it stop him. Emily's diary carried secrets that needed to be revealed. It was as if he was destined to uncover the truth about what really happened to the young girl who disappeared so long ago. "Let's go, Jake. We need to be brave. What we're looking for is here, somewhere," Lucas declared, his voice firm now. The two friends continued to explore the forest, the tension growing with each step they took. And as they delved deeper, a strange sensation enveloped them, as if they were being watched by something invisible, as if the forest itself was attentive to their every move. Lucas and Jake advanced through the forest, their feet sinking into the dry foliage full of life. The sun filtered through the treetops, creating a pattern of light and shadow that danced as the wind blew. The atmosphere was charged with expectation, a palpable tension that seemed to emanate from the very ground beneath their feet. The search for answers about Emily and her mysterious disappearance had become an obsession, and now they were closer than ever. "Do you really think we're going to find something?" Jake asked, breaking the tense silence that enveloped them. His face was lit up with curiosity, but there was also a trace of fear in his eyes. "I hope so. Emily, she needs help. And somehow I feel like this is all connected to me," Lucas replied, his voice laden with determination. He held the diary firmly under his arm as if it were an anchor that tied him to reality. After walking for a while, they reached a clearing that seemed to be the heart of the forest. In the center, a large ancient tree stood majestically, and around it a series of stones arranged in a circle. What was this? Lucas approached the tree, feeling an inexplicable connection to that place. "Look at this," Lucas said, pointing to objects scattered around the altar. There were friendship bracelets, faded photos, and even a diary similar to the one he had found in the attic. Lucas's heart raced. These must be things that belonged to Emily and her friends. Jake crouched down to examine a bracelet. "This is creepy, man. How do you think they got here?" Lucas didn't respond immediately. He felt an inexplicable attraction to one object in particular, a small, ornate wooden box. When he touched it, a wave of warmth surged through his body, and suddenly, Everything around him started to spin. The forest disappeared, and in its place appeared a vivid scene, the night of the disappearance. He was there, but not the Lucas he knew. He was Emily, a teenager full of dreams and fears, surrounded by friends who laughed and had fun at a party. The laughter echoed, but there was tension in the air, a sinister anticipation. "Are you sure we should do this?" A familiar voice sounded. It was his grandmother, younger, but Lucas recognized the concern in her eyes. "It's just a pact, and we're friends. We're going to protect each other, no matter what happens," another girl insisted, holding Emily's hand. Lucas felt a lump in his throat as he realized that this was the night when everything changed. The scene unfolded before him, and he watched, powerless, as the friends gathered around a fire, making promises that seemed harmless but carried a dark weight. "We will never leave each other," one of them said, laughing nervously. "We'll be friends forever." Then the atmosphere changed. Something in the forest seemed to awaken, and the laughter turned into screams. Lucas saw the younger version of his grandmother with wide eyes as the shadow of a figure moved between the trees. Panic took hold of the scene, and everything seemed to collapse. He tried to scream, but no sound came out. The box was still in his hands, pulsing like a heart. In a moment of clarity, Lucas realized that he wasn't just an observer. He was part of that story. He was Emily. "I am you," he whispered, finally understanding. "I am Emily's reincarnation." With this revelation, the world began to spin again, and the forest returned. Lucas fell to his knees, gasping as Jake looked at him, worried. "Lucas, what happened?" Lucas blinked a few times, trying to collect himself. I am Emily. And what happened that night was a pact that went beyond what they imagined." Jake frowned. "What do you mean?" "My grandmother, she didn't just hide the truth from me, but she was trying to protect me from a tragic fate. Their pact, it wasn't just about friendship. It was about hiding a secret that could destroy them. And now, I have to break this cycle." "How do you plan to do that?" "I need to return to the altar and confront what's trapped here. We need to release Emily, and maybe in doing so, we can free all of them," Lucas replied, his determination renewed. He stood up, looking at the forest around him, now clearer and full of possibilities. "We'll go together," Jake said, firmly by his side. "I'm with you." And so, the two friends prepared to face the past, determined to bring to light the truth that had been hidden for so long.